Buying a home should be fun. It should be enjoyable. And probably the most fun that you'll have in the home buying process comes in the house hunting phase. After months and years of hard work and patience, it's finally time for you to go out there and find your new home. But with the rising number of buyers' demand and the low supply of homes in the market, you need to find the best ways to set yourself apart from others and get your offer accepted. So here are my top tips and practices that you need to execute in the house hunting stage for the rest of this year and for the next years to come. Coming right up. What's up guys, it's Vince of Realtor, and if you're watching this and you've made it this far in the home buying guide, then congrats. That means you're finally at the fun part, the house hunting. I know up to this point it's been nothing but preparation and patience, but after sitting down with your realtor for the first time and then getting pre-approved by your lender, it's finally time to get out there, go into the field, or in other words, you've now entered the war zone. That's a bit dramatic, I know, but in these times, that can be pretty accurate. There are literally waves of new families, newly wedded couples, first-time home buyers transitioning out of their first homes, crashing into the housing market, into whatever homes is available right now, and there's not a lot. With some buyers offering tens of thousands of dollars extra out of pocket just to win their home. You need to come into this stage with the proper tools and mindsets, and with creative and purposeful ways to stand out, as well as ways to move efficiently so that you don't waste your time and your energy. And so today I will be going over 1, what to expect during the house hunting in 2021, 2, tips to keep in mind when house hunting, as in what to look out for, 3, what makes a good offer and what are sellers looking for, and 4, additional tips and practices that you absolutely need to remember and apply in this stage. I do have each key topic timestamped in the description, so if you want to jump around to whatever topics matter most to you, go ahead. All right, so let's dive into the first topic. What to expect when you're house hunting in 2021. First of all, this market moves fast. How fast? Probably the fastest it's ever been in the last decade. We're talking about 90% of homes staying in the market for only 1 week max, many of which only stay on the market maybe 1 to 2 days. Literally don't even have time to make it to open house because they've got a deal or an offer that they just couldn't refuse. That is why it's so important that you have this guide, so that way you're a prepared home buyer that has your home goals and that you know what you're looking for, so that way you don't feel rushed or anxious seeing these homes fly off the shelves. It's like, for example, going to the mall on Black Friday or Labor Day weekend. You're gonna see so many deals and you're gonna wanna take advantage of all of them. But if you grab everything and then none of what you actually wanted or needed or anything of worth, did you really get a deal? Did you really save money? So yeah, you don't have to feel like you have to see every available home. It's very normal to have that FOMO feel throughout this whole process. FOMO being fear of missing out. Also, you shouldn't feel like you have to do any practice offers either. If we're being real, there actually is no such thing. An offer is an offer. You don't want to be in a position where you submit a practice offer and then it gets accepted. And then suddenly you're in a position where you're not actually ready to buy a home or this home. But that being said, you also have to be quick to act, especially if you feel like this home is potentially the home for you, because you will miss it. So in the beginning of the house hunting process, don't be surprised if it happens to start off pretty slow for you. Your agent will either send you MLS updates weekly of any of the available homes in the market that match your criteria, or another thing that works that my clients prefer is that I, as their agent, provide them my search engine, my website, so that way they can actually go ahead and do the search for the homes themselves. The main reasons I do this is 1, there are sometimes houses that I could miss that may not traditionally meet your wants and needs, but you're still willing to make an exception because it potentially still works out. Ultimately, you're the best person to know whether or not the home is right for you, right? And then second reason is that my clients do like to have control in the home buying process, as you should. And so anywhere I can implement the client taking the steering wheel at any time, I don't see anything wrong with that. Of course, you still have to keep in mind of your pre-approved max limit that the lender gave you. You do not want to be searching above that number. Pretty self-explanatory there. If you find a home that you really like and you want to go ahead and see in person, that's when your realtor can go ahead and schedule either a private showing for you and your party alone, or they will set you up to go to the open house available for that home, typically set towards the weekend. Here in Hawaii, you will typically see 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. on a Sunday, possibly even Saturday. When you go to these open houses, or especially the private showing, your realtor will be and should be there, especially during the private showings, because they need to help you access the home. But they will be there to ask questions on your behalf, pay attention to certain things that you may miss as a home buyer, and just so that you feel comfortable overall during the showing. Another thing to keep in mind is that we are in the middle of a pandemic, so there are strict COVID restrictions or guidelines that we have to abide by. If you've been paying attention to any realtor's page during these open houses, you will notice that it looks very busy, sometimes even lines outside the door. Of course, it is actually really busy right now, and there is a lot of buyers out there trying to buy a home, but also there's just a restriction on the amount of people allowed in the home at one time. So that kind of creates a backlog of people waiting to come in. As we're getting closer to the end of the year, we are seeing less and less of that, but do expect that you will have a bit of traffic going to these homes. Okay, so that's what you can expect when you start the house hunting stage. Here are some additional tips you want to keep in mind while you are searching for your home. Some things you want to keep in mind while you're viewing these homes is number one, the neighborhood. You want to visit, of course, during the day, but if you have the time and if it's possible, also visit during the night. During the day, especially during open house, more than likely the neighborhood is not home. They're not around. So it's not going to be an accurate depiction, or you're not going to be able to accurately tell how crowded this neighborhood could possibly be. You want to keep in mind of noise, accessibility, obstructions. Are there many noticeable and irritating noises around you? You know, here in Hawaii, it's very common to have a big presence of Filipino households or families. And at nighttime, what is one of the things that they love to do? Karaoke. And it can get pretty wild. Do you mind this at all, or do you actually want to join in karaoke night? Then by all means. Other things you may want to pay attention to are the roads and the accessibility coming into the neighborhood. In some neighborhoods, they may have all the cars parked alongside of the road, thus creating a narrow pathway or access. You also want to pay attention to the mentioned amenities and the fee for those. Do those amenities seem worth it to you? That is something you are able to ask your realtor if that price is reasonable and worth what you're paying. And then lastly, you want to pay attention to the overall potential of the home catered to your home goals. Previously in part 2, I did mention that if you happen to go to an open house early on, just for research purposes, you don't want to pay attention to the smaller details like the cosmetics or whatnot, because more than likely it's only specific to that home and it's not going to transfer over to your future home. Well, now that we're in the house hunting stage, this is where you want to go more into these smaller details, right? Things that would affect you and your lifestyle later on in this home. Of course, you want to pay attention to the overall structure and potential to develop the home in the future, the lot size overall, and whether or not you have more front yard to backyard or vice versa, and of course the proximity of the homes between yours and your neighbors. But aside from those major things, the smaller details that we're referring to would be things like the quality of the work done on recent renovations, as well as the general overall upkeep of the home. Are there any noticeable missing pieces or defective parts in the home? Now, these things are typically covered in the home inspection that is done in the escrow process, but if you are able to point these things out in the beginning, early on, it will save you a bit of time if you end up going into escrow and having to fall back out because you don't like something that shows up on the home inspection. So be on the lookout for those things. Some other smaller details would be your general living situation. For example, how ventilated is your home? Does this home come with an AC included, or is there at least a proper airflow throughout the house? You see, in Hawaii, it is a very tropical climate, very humid. You want to make sure that you're comfortable in the sense that it's cool enough. Also, if you have kids, how safe does the general area seem? Can you fix that if it's not? And another overlooked aspect is your parking situation. Is your parking situated near or in front of your home, or is it a bit further out? How is the guest parking? You know, for your future parties or whatever with your friends. And how far of a distance is it to your community amenities, such as the shopping center or the rec center, or even the schools for your kids? All of these details combined make for the potential of the home, for your potential home. Again, going back to that list, your home goals, having that by your side makes it much easier to check it off and to narrow out your options. Okay, so let's say you've kept those tips in mind and you've narrowed down to the house that you want to make an offer for. What makes a good offer then? But before that, what even is an offer? Well, typically an offer consists of the purchase contract, the pre-approval, and possibly a cover letter. The purchase contract is the 12 to 20 page document that has all of the conditions between you and the seller that has to be met within that escrow process before you buy the home. There are many things within that contract that you can negotiate to make your offer more stronger. Then we have your pre-approval letter. Like we mentioned previously, it is from your lender showing how qualified of a buyer you are. And then possibly a cover letter, which is a letter addressed directly to the seller showing your intent to buy this home, what you loved about it, and how serious you are. Now, sometimes it can be appropriate to do this, but as of right now in this market, it can be considered counterproductive to do so. It is so busy, it is so competitive right now, and time consuming for the seller to have to go through every single cover letter to read through them. Some homes are still getting 10 plus offers, 20 plus offers. So to maximize time, unless there's an absolute reason for you to write a letter, something that you think will really resonate with the seller, then I absolutely think you could leave it out at this process, at this time, and in this market. Now keep in mind, knowing what a good offer is good for you to know, but it's not necessary. This is where your realtor will show their expertise, making a good offer and negotiating with the seller on your behalf. To some extent, most things can be negotiated in your favor. However, that all depends on the circumstances and of course, what kind of market we are in. Right now, we are currently in a seller's market, meaning that first-time home buyers like yourself are kind of at a disadvantage. So you have to be willing to work with that. Why would you be willing to work with that? Well, right now, most people are trying to secure that low interest rate, that 3%, that 3 to 3.25, 3.5% interest rate for the life of the loan. You end up saving a lot more money with that kind of rate. So a lot of buyers are willing to negotiate and trade certain things for that goal in mind. By the way, by negotiations in a professional sense, it does not have to come off as hostile. There is typically mutual understanding between you as the buyer and the seller that you guys have similar goals and you want to make this work. It's just about making sure that all the pieces fit well, and for the most part, it is an equal trade-off. But since we're on the topic of good to know, here are a few other things that are good to know. When we're talking about loans, in the eyes of the seller, some loans are favorable compared to the other loan. Typically, a conventional loan holds more buying power, negotiation power, than your VA loan and especially your FHA loan. VA loans are definitely great, but it's favorable to the buyer and helps the buyer more, being that the down payment is not needed. But that's just it. The seller does not have full confidence that a VA loan buyer will have the same additional funds that a conventional loan buyer would have. I know that seems kind of backwards. Not needing that down payment should free up some kind of funds for your buyer, right? Not exactly, because most often those that use the VA use it because they can't afford or they have not saved enough for the down payment, and thus they do need down payment assistance. But again, it is still a great tool, but you just have to keep that in mind in this type of market. You absolutely should take advantage of the VA. Just understand that it does not stand out compared to your conventional loan. Cash buyers rule above all, and there's almost nothing you can do to best that or beat that. You may just have to cut your losses at that point if you find out that there's a cash buyer. Sometimes the listing agent will disclose that ahead of time. So now you may be wondering, besides additional funds, what else can we do to make my offer more favorable or beat others? Like I mentioned before, in that purchase contract, there are certain conditions that can be made that may seem favorable to the seller. We're talking about shortening some timelines or waiving certain things like cleaning or termite inspection. Now, waiving things is another topic and it's not exactly recommended to do, but again, this is what you have your realtor for. You want to have that discussion with your realtor, ask them, what can you do? What can they do to make this offer more stronger? And then you have to ask yourself, are you willing to make those sacrifices? If not, that's okay. Stick to your guns and just stay in the market and hold strong. Another popular thing that we're seeing right now, and what a lot of sellers are paying attention to, is something we call the appraisal clause. When you're in escrow, the lender, the person that you're borrowing your loan from, will hire an appraiser who will appraise the amount or the value of the home you're about to buy. I will go over the appraisal more in the next stage, the escrow process. Just understand that if the value of the home comes under what you guys agreed upon in the contract to pay the seller. Some people use the appraisal clause to say that they will make up the difference between what you guys are buying it for and then what it appraises for. That is typically how people are paying a little bit extra out of pocket to buy a home right now. Again, I will dive a little bit deeper into that topic in the next video. Okay, so let's say you made that offer and you get accepted, the seller will end up signing that contract that you originally sent them and then sending it back to you. That means that your offer was accepted, and thus your realtor can go ahead and open escrow within the next business day or whatever it is you guys agreed upon in the contract. And thus that means you are now entering the home stretch, which is the escrow process, that 30 to 45 day window where you finalize the purchase of the home, do your final inspections, get approved for the loan, and then the full exchange of ownership of that said home. And it's pretty much that simple. As long as you remember your goals and what you're looking for, your realtor should be able to handle the rest of this. They say that in this stage and then parts of the escrow process, that if you feel like you are not contributing or doing any part in this process, then that's actually a good thing, because that means your realtor is doing their job. But just to make sure nothing else goes wrong, here are additional tips and practices that you must remember and apply in this stage. Do not get desperate, do not get discouraged, and do not get emotionally attached. If you get emotionally attached to a home, that's what will lead you to desperation and also disappointment. You want to come into this with an open mind and understand that there will be other homes and that you typically would be good either way. That way you can make the right decision and a level-headed decision. Also, don't get discouraged. Most buyers will go through a few homes before they actually find one that they like, and then even more homes that you'll have to go through because your offer doesn't get accepted. That is just part of the process, and you got to understand what we're doing this for, the bigger picture, right? Always go back to your big why. Now, here are also some things you absolutely should not do in the house hunting stage and until you actually buy the home. Don't make any major life and financial decisions. We're talking about opening up lines of credit, like a credit card. Don't make any major purchases, large purchases. You don't want to quit your job or even change jobs. And you don't want to move large amounts of money in and out of your account or between accounts. Also, do not pay off any debts. I know that seems like it's helping, but ultimately you want to make sure that your financial status and your accounts remain the same from when you get first pre-approved by your lender all the way up until the end of escrow when you finally purchase your home. Then that's when you can decide to open up a new credit card or make any big purchases that you need for the home, like furniture or whatnot. Again, you want to make sure your account stays the same, everything stays the same, your job stays the same, your financial status stays the same. Okay, with that being said, that is the house hunting stage in a nutshell. Short and sweet, just like the house hunting phase. It is the most fun you'll have, and it is short-lived, or it can be short-lived. The next and most important stage is the escrow process, or what I call the home stretch. The escrow process is where you meet all of the conditions as a buyer, and the seller will have to meet their conditions, so that way you can finalize the purchase of this home. Stay tuned for that next video so that way you can figure out how to maximize your efforts and to make sure this process goes smoothly. That concludes this video, but before you go, if you could leave a like for this video and subscribe if you like my channel. I do want to continue to build this channel up so I can continue to put out more content that benefits you. Anyways, have a great day, have a great week, have a great life, and I'll see you when I see you. Peace.